This is exactly where we need to be. This is exactly where I want to be with all of you, right here, right now. And we've been talking about it all day. We've got an election. What do we have now? Maybe 72 hours, if I've done the math right, before this thing is really happening? Yeah. But it's also another kind of extraordinary moment, which I feel like I have felt here today, that has to do with sort of convergences. So on the one hand, we're talking about institutions and systems that are utterly and completely broken. We're talking about dominant beliefs and values that are failing us miserably. On the other hand, we're talking about glimpses of new things that are emerging, new ways of being and doing, new ways of thinking, new kinds of systems, some of which will be ephemeral, some of which will last, but new. And yet, we're still operating in the old systems. And in those systems, as so many of you have eloquently said today, people and entire communities are living not only in financial poverty, but we're talking about scarcity of epic proportion. And I think of it like this. If we keep hearing that the wealth on this planet is owned and held by the smallest percentage of our population, and what that means is not only that people are poor financially, it means that our systems are not adequate, that people don't have access to education, to health care. People don't have relationships and connections that can lead them anywhere near prosperity. And that's the system that we're operating in, even while we can be here today together, glimpsing what can come if we keep doing this work. And I think as cultural workers, we understand that cultural prosperity is essential. That if we cannot access our creativity, inspiration, and imagination, how will it be possible for any of us to step forward in the world? It starts with culture. So, at YBCA, we ask the question, what is the role of the cultural institution in the 21st and the 22nd century? We who own and operate public benefit institutions, often at the heart of our cities. These institutions are prime real estate at the heart of our cities. Think about that. What is our role? Who are we here for? And what kind of change will we make in the world? And to Tanya's point, it's up to us. So I invite you to call with me to all cultural centers of all kinds, all shapes and all sizes, to turn their immense creative resources to the project of igniting the collective imagination, of inspiring, do it, of inspiring radical citizenship and bringing us all together so that we can do the real work of ensuring that it is prosperity for all of us. That is what our cultural centers can do. And it's culture that precedes change. It's culture that will inspire movement. We have to start with our cultural institutions. And I kept thinking all day today while all of you were talking and sharing and inspiring, my God, what if every cultural institution in the country was doing this exact same thing today, or maybe a month ago? Things would be different, wouldn't they? The elections would be different, the world would be different. So let's demand it of our cultural institutions and let that lead the way for all of the other systems that we will need as human beings. And it's going to be massive, right? Massive cultural movement that we'll need if we really are going to achieve the kind of values and beliefs that we all are talking about here today. The YBCA 100, this list of amazing people, and another shout out to the 100. As you heard from Shanaka and from Mark and from others, the YBCA 100 is the list of people who are most inspiring to the people who work in this organization. And one of the reasons that we thought that this was an important thing to do was very selfish. Bottom line is, the people who run YBCA are amazing. All 100 of them, and because many of them, we have 600 employees year-round, from the seasonal to the full-time. Those are the people that know what's what. They're the ones that understand what is happening in the world, that are engaging. The majority of the YBCA are staff. Our artists are on boards of other institutions, know of things that are happening in the world that I wouldn't know. So it was about democratizing the curatorial structure and saying, let's open up the doors, let's find out who's interesting, let's figure out who inspires us, and let's work together to let those people lead our way. And that is what we hope that we are doing. It's also about saying, how can an art center be at the center of naming who our heroes should be? Who should our heroes be? Think about all the lists that are made in the world. Do you want those people to be your heroes? Are they the ones that are going to guide us forward? It's the people in this room. And so that's what we're here to do. Now, I'll tell you about a couple of those people. I think of artists and change makers, and I think Tanya also said it really well earlier. We need to embrace all kinds. We need all the creative people to come together to apply their imagination and their resources to this broader project. Whether it's last year list maker Tom Sachs, whose exhibition is in our gallery right now. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you, who basically tells us if we can imagine it and we can make it, it's ours to have. And whether that is that you are going to build your very own space program, and through a combination of hubris and skill, you are going to go to the moon, you're going to go to Mars, and you're going to go to the icy surface of Europa, or you are among the many people who are working with us on our Market Street Prototyping Festival, which is imagining not only the future of Market Street in San Francisco, but is changing the culture of planning in our city and across the country. And I'm very proud to say, I think Neil Rashowi from the planning department is here, one of my personal heroes, that we have changed policy. We now have a bit of legislation moving through the city called Places for People that will make it easier, cheaper, and faster for citizens of all kinds to participate in imagining the future of their streets, their sidewalks, and their communities. That's because of this work. So imagine that we can start thinking about our street life and think about joy and light in public space. We can think about making and mending and sharing in public space, communing, collaborating. And what about our children, especially in cities like San Francisco, where the majority of our public space are streets and sidewalks, not parks? Pianos everywhere that remind us that there is talent and virtuosity walking by us every day, and our system doesn't let us know it. So YBCA is the creative home for civic action. We do a lot of dinners also, by the way. And we want to be that place where we can be home to creative people of all kinds. And we want to imagine a world where artists and scientists and young people and teachers are all collaborating around these questions, a cacophony of responses that all together add up to the kinds of answers that we need. And then we want to support those answers, whether they take the shape of policy, whether they take the shape of new enterprises, new art projects, residencies in community. This organization is a cultural incubator. This is about putting our resources towards all of you. How do we do this stuff? Well, it's simple in some ways. Why shouldn't every art center in the world be a polling place, right? When the Department of Elections came out and looked at our space, they were like, oh, this is nice. Oh, because most polling places are not. Why shouldn't we? We also have been part of a historic coalition here in San Francisco that has brought together arts leaders of organizations of all sizes and people who are working around homeless issues in the city, in particular, people who are working to end family homelessness in the city. We are on the ballot, Proposition S, and this will restore hotel tax funding to assure cultural equity and to end family homelessness in the city of San Francisco. And this is about the world we need to work in. Art centers don't sit in some island. Was it Mark, the artist island? We sit in the world. We occupy public space. We have resources, and we need to contribute them to broader community concerns. On top of that, none of these problems will be solved if we're working in silos. We have to be working together, and this is a perfect example of that. So, join me in encouraging this revolution, right? Art centers are not places to come to solely spectate, to sit back and witness another person's idea of what is great. They are places for convening, they are places for incubating, and they are places for change making.